The statistics show that for black mothers, it's more likely for them to die during childbirth. He will grow into a black man. What areas I wanted him to be socialised in.
Did you have any fears or worries about becoming a parent?
Yeah. I think when you ask that question, the first thing that comes to mind is a big fear. And that was just around my ability to kind of get through the pregnancy and have him. Unfortunately, the statistics show that for black mothers, it's more likely for them to die during childbirth. And so I had to have some really difficult conversations, especially with his dad about, you know, if we got to that point, what we would do. Or as bad as it sounds, almost like who would he choose if we had to make a decision between the two of us. I think for me, I'm a planner. And so in order to kind of get around those fears, I as I said, had those difficult conversations, but also made sure that I did things like get a will and put that in place, and get insurances as well that would mean that if anything did happen to me, then, you know, little Micah would be set. Yes, you would. You would be set. You would be all good. And that he would be able to look after himself, particularly financially, and also that his dad would be able to as well. So I think in terms of like fears, that was probably one of the biggest ones. And funnily enough, just linked to that actually, like where to live. I mean, I live somewhere at the moment, obviously, but I had to think about where do I want to raise him. You know, there are certain areas that are not very safe. And as he will grow into a black man, I also had to think about, you know, what communities and what areas I wanted him to be socialised in, and the impact that they might have on him as he grows and how people see him as he grows. So yeah, those were kind of, I guess, two of the biggest things that came up for me. And then there was other practical things like money, like am I going to be able to afford to have a baby? And a really weird one, I guess, I felt this like insane pressure to step up, like to just make sure that I was everything that I could be so that I could teach him or I could have a good stepping stone, I guess, for him so that he could be better than me, if that makes sense. So like I wanted to make sure I'd achieved everything that I could by the time he was born so that then I could teach him everything I know and then he can go off in the world and do better than I did. And that was tough, trying to teach myself everything I don't know in 9 months. It didn't work, but it was an interesting journey to try and go through, I guess. And then I think just a couple around sort of pregnancy, like I did worry about the ability to carry to full term or even get pregnant. I have never been pregnant before. And so I thought, well, what if I can't get I used to worry about what if I can't get pregnant. And then when I got pregnant, I worried, what if I can't go to full term? And then I guess how my relationships might change would be the last thing, I think. You know, his dad and I were not planning for him to be here. We do love him, but we were not planning for it to happen. And so it was really interesting because we both kind of decided that this was the time to focus on careers. And then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, maybe not focusing on careers anymore. And I guess when we're talking about fears, for me, there was a little bit like, okay, we've made this decision, but ultimately, if his dad decided that he didn't want to do it anymore, I'm the one who's got the baby and I'm going to have to stay with him. So it was a little bit of anxiety around that. I mean, fortunately, his dad's amazing and he's not done that. And I don't think he's going to, but it was a real thing that I had to consider. And that was quite scary as well, you know. But yeah.
Do you think that, because you've just been so honest then about all your fears and all the different worries, do you think other people are able to be as honest as you've just been?
No, I don't. I don't think people are able to be honest. And I think part of the reason is because of all of the stuff on, I don't want to give social media a bad rep, but I think we're exposed to more people's opinions because of things like social media, which can be a great thing, but it can also be a really bad one. But I also think, you know, in becoming a parent, I've seen how judgmental people can be, not just social media people, your family, your friends, and not judgmental in a horrible way either. They've just got an opinion. They've got a judgment about what you should and shouldn't be doing. And that can prevent people from being honest about what's going on for them. But I think it's so important to be honest. Like, even though I don't necessarily feel the stuff that were my fears were like hugely secretive things, but they were things that I could be honest with at least someone about during the process. And just, you know, they say a problem shared is a problem halved, like just so that you're not carrying all the weight of all of that, it's really important to share, and it really, really does help. I remember actually going to a breastfeeding group locally, and I went because I was struggling with feeding. And afterwards, we all went to the pub. We didn't have a drink, but we just went to have something to eat. And we were just talking about all of our frustrations. And I got home and I thought, I didn't know I needed that. I really didn't know I needed people to just talk to. And it was just such a relief, just so much off my chest. Yeah.